Let's study English literature, poem number 4, a doctor's journal entry for August 6, 1945. It's a fictional poem, but it is very realistic and it gives us an idea about what might have transpired on that fateful day when a nuclear bomb was dropped on Hiroshima in Japan during the Second World War. All of us know the background story of it. The Second World War was fought between the Allies and the Axis. The Axis had dictatorships like Hitler's Germany, Mussolini's Italy, and General Tito's Japan, who wanted to capture the world, expand their territory. To oppose them, we had an alliance of the democratic countries like USA, UK, France, and even USSR supported them. We know that the Allies won, but at what cost? The war started in 1939. It lasted for 6 years. Millions of people died, billions of dollars were wasted, but it culminated with the dropping of nuclear weapons. Now, USA defends itself that there was no choice. If they would have allowed the war to drag on for a few more years, countless more millions of people would have died. So they chose the lesser of the two evils. Let's kill a few people so that the war comes to a stop once and for all, because the Japanese were not willing to listen to reason at all. Germany was almost defeated. Many years ago, all the Jewish people had escaped from Germany because Hitler was against the Jews, including Albert Einstein, who settled in USA. He and many prominent scientists wrote to the president of USA that we should build a nuclear weapon as a deterrent so that Germany does not try to attack USA. And it's possible that Germany might be developing a nuclear weapon. So before they do, we have to put an end to this. Because if that weapon comes in some evil hands, then the future of humanity is at stake. And no, there was no Hail Hydra at that time. After the bombs were exploded, Albert Einstein and others became pacifists and they protested against further use and development of nuclear weapons. Because though the nuclear weapons deployed on 6th of August in Hiroshima and then 9th of August in Nagasaki stopped the Second World War, but it started a Cold War between USSR, which is now Russia mostly, and USA, each developing hundreds of nuclear weapons which they still have today. Imagine if there is a third world war and this time it will be fought with nuclear weapons. Then the fourth world war will be fought with stones and sticks, because all of us will be bombed back to the Stone Age if it is ever used. In fact, humanity might cease to exist. It will become extinct. Cockroaches would survive because they have a layer of chitin around them. Imagine that centuries and millennia from now, they would be studying in their history textbooks that Homo sapiens used to exist, like we study dinosaurs. Movies would be made on you. You might be the main antagonist. The nuclear bomb dropped on Hiroshima was called Little Boy, which is so ironical because it destroyed the whole city. And on August 9, another nuclear bomb of higher yield was dropped on Nagasaki. It was called Fat Man. That was the only way to make them accept the defeat, because they were prepared to sacrifice even their citizens to win this war. Before this event, something very tragic had happened. The Japanese fighter planes had attacked Pearl Harbor in USA. Hundreds of Navy soldiers and even some civilians had died in that military installation of USA. So the USA wanted to take vengeance for that Pearl Harbor attack, as well as checkmate on Japan to finish the war. Today, many countries have nuclear weapons. Some are responsible nuclear powers like India. Some are irresponsible. This poem is an anti-war poem in a very unique style. It doesn't really preach, which is quite boring for readers. It simply narrates the events from the point of view of a doctor who might have written this in a journal. He writes in a very matter-of-fact manner. There is no strong emotion expressed. It's very dispassionate, detached. It's up to the readers to feel what they have gone through. It's for the readers to realize the destruction caused. The Japanese government at that time were the culprits. But why did the Japanese people, the innocent farmers, the good doctors, why did they have to sacrifice their lives? Some people call it collateral damage, meaning side effect of a war. Can't help it. Could there have been a better way? It's debatable. But one thing everybody can agree on is that we should never let such a situation arise again, and nuclear weapons should never be used no matter what. We should always aim for diplomacy, dialogue, sanctions, traditional war if required, but not chemical warfare and biological warfare and nuclear warfare. The poem starts in the morning of August 6th. He's a Japanese doctor. He wakes up. It's a beautiful morning. He's in his undershirt and undergarment, his drawers, underwear. It's pleasant, it's calm. And suddenly he sees a flash. Such a bright flash that he had never seen anything like that. At first he thought it's magnesium flares to ask for SOS help. It was so bright that it couldn't be it. He could feel the trembling of the houses, the buildings collapsing, as if the whole world was getting destroyed. It was a catastrophe, a kind of which the world had never seen. It was the first time a nuclear weapon had been used on a civilian population. Most of the people die at the epicenter. Perhaps he was hundreds of miles away, so he didn't die of it. But still, the radiations, the heat, and the mushroom cloud after a nuclear weapon is fired, it spreads across a long distance. His clothes burned away. He became completely naked. In fact, many people in the surroundings became naked. But it was no longer a matter of shame or embarrassment. It was a matter of life and death. His right side was bleeding. His cheek was torn. He had a glass piece lodged in his thigh. He dispassionately, detachedly removed the glass piece. He's a doctor. He's aware of all these injuries and how to cure them. He's in a flashback mode. So he's just narrating it as a chronology of events. He was also bleeding from his neck. So he was worried about that. Because if his carotid artery is injured, that can lead to death. There are very few arteries where the blood pressure is very high and they're superficial. For example, the radial artery here and the carotid artery. Here, the blood can just come out like a fountain. And that's why we can feel the pulse as well. We also have the jugular vein out here. Even that is a vital blood vessel. Then he was worried about his wife. He called out his wife's name, Yakuza. She appeared, even she was badly injured. She was holding her elbow and her shoulder was injured as well. So they wanted to rush out of the house and go towards the hospital. At the gate, they tripped on some person's body. They said, "Oh, sorry, excuse me." But then they realized that the person was dead. They tripped on his head. The gate had killed him. They went ahead. At that time, the doctor felt like he should go back and help the staff members in his clinic. But then he realized that how could he? He himself is so badly injured. He had to be practical and he had to go to the hospital first, along with his wife. However, moments like this show us that even at times of tragedy, some people are compassionate about others. This is so ironical because the bomb was cruel, inhuman. And even in this event of inhumanity, we see glimpses of humanity. Another instance like this is when they were walking, a soldier, seeing that he had no clothes on, gave his towel to him. This shows compassion. But his thigh was so mangled and he was so weak, losing so much of blood, he had no energy anymore. He had to sit down. He couldn't go anymore. He had to ask his wife to move ahead without him to the hospital. And he promised her that we will meet again. The wife did not want to leave him, but they had to be logical. There's no point in just waiting for him. No help will arrive. They had to walk all the way. So he let her go. At that time, he felt lonely. This represents the loneliness one feels during war when you're injured. And psychologically also, he was so disturbed that he was suffering from PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. Many people, they might recover physically, but the mental scars, the psychological scars cannot be healed. Soldiers and civilians both develop some phobia or anxiety for the rest of their lives, having faced such a life-threatening instance in their life and having seen so much of death and destruction in front of their eyes. He felt thirsty, but there was no water left. Perhaps it was contaminated or evaporated because of the heat of the radiations. Then he saw all the people who had survived walking towards the hospital. We don't even know if the hospital still exists or it has collapsed, but they were walking towards the hospital and they all were walking like ghosts, like zombies, like scarecrows, and their hands were dangling because the skin was burnt. So they did not want friction. It's very painful when you have injured skin touching each other. The flesh would chafe. They wanted to prevent the chafing of the flesh. So the hands were dangling like that. Then he saw a naked woman and a naked child standing in front of him. He was quite surprised. In any other circumstance, he would have been shocked or even embarrassed. But at this time, there was no other emotion except despair. Then he saw another naked man, and then he realized that the reason behind everybody losing their clothes is the same reason why he has lost his clothes. They were all burned. This nudity is actually a symbolism used. It expresses the horrible situation that the Japanese people were in at that time. They had nothing left. It's good that after the war, how they have bounced back. Today, Japan is one of the most developed countries in the world. And Japanese people are very resilient. They face earthquakes and natural disasters regularly, but they don't cry about it. Even at that time, when he saw these naked people and injured people, and even an injured face of an old woman, he never saw a single person cry. Nobody was complaining or speaking. They were just tolerating the pain, which makes readers even sadder. The fact that the people were dumb, mute, they were not speaking, symbolizes that when a superpower commits atrocities against a country, people can't really complain against them. Rarely can anybody point fingers at the superpower, which USA was at that time. Also, the fact that this doctor was able to write an account, was able to narrate the entire incident impersonally, shows the strength of the human will and spirit. Like a phoenix, Japan rose from the ashes. And today, it's a democratic nation and a highly sophisticated society. And the people are resilient to face all odds. Hi students, this is AJ sir. If you like this video, press the like button. If you would like to enroll for my online test series or online lectures, email me or message me on Instagram. Check the description for more information.